Ah, yes. We're going to see another statue of the Virgin Mary. But this one, it's a little different. It involves a cave, a falcon, and fresh lilies. We leave Logroño not with painted yellow arrows pointing the way, but the iconic and low-profile scallop shells in the sidewalk. This makes it a little more difficult to follow if you're not paying attention. Of course, how you find your first marker depends on where you spent the night. For starters, locate Calle Marqués de Murrieta and head west until you reach Calle El Duque de Najera and turn left. This brings us to a small park, which we cross, and then take a bridge over these train tracks. From here, it's a pleasant walk through the larger Parque de San Miguel. The urban landscape slowly dissolves away before we go under a highway and turn right. Even on a weekday morning, you'll find Logroño residents taking advantage of all this open space running along the farmland. And then you might start to envy all the outdoor options they have when you reach the Tono de la Grajera, a wetland area with a large reservoir called Embalse de la Grajera. For us, it was a good place to rest and think about what might have been. Now, for those who are planning to do this trip, or those who have already done it, I'm sure you've noticed by this point that a week's worth of walking has been skipped at the very beginning, all the way from Saint Jean to Logroño. Now, there's a reason for that. My wife and I both got COVID and we had to postpone our trip. And because we had our hotel rooms already booked in advance, we had to pretty much just pick up where the next reservation was. So that's why it's missing. Now, on a philosophical note, this meant we had to give up our expectations of doing the entire trip. And you know something? That's okay. Now, it may not look like it, but we follow a dribble named the Rio Somero for nearly 2 kilometers, and then come to the ruins of the Ermita del Peregrino Pasante, or Hermitage of the Passing Pilgrim. And indeed, that's what we do by continuing to the right at the intersection. Now, there have been vineyards in this area for more than 2,000 years, but the local specialty known as Rioja wine didn't get widespread recognition until about the 15th century. The grapes are special because the higher altitude here means a shorter growing season. That, in turn, makes for fruitier flavors and lighter tasting wine. I guarantee you'll see it on a few Pilgrim meal menus because, well, it can be pretty inexpensive. As for the Camino, it eventually dips down to a highway where we find this inexplicable tradition of weaving stick crosses into the chain link fence. Eventually, Navarrete shows up in the distance, but first we have to cross this highway over a bridge and on the outskirts of town, pause at the ruins of San Juan de Acre, a pilgrim hostel founded in the Middle Ages as a way to encourage travelers to stop in the area and spend a little money. Sort of like their version of putting up a Motel 6. We pass this giant bottle of Rioja wine, walk through more vineyards, and soon cross the N120 where we enter Navarrete with its intriguing, narrow, medieval streets. We inevitably land at the local church. Now, it doesn't hurt to pause here, and this is the Iglesia de la Asunción with its amazing retablo, perhaps one of the best along the Camino. Now, construction began on this church in 1533 and was finished about 100 years later. Now, for a little extra excitement, you can pop a euro in the machine and light this whole sucker up for 5 minutes. It's worth it. The well-marked route continues out of town along a dreary stretch of highway before finding a wide dirt path still within noisy earshot of the road. Then we veer into more vineyards, olive groves, and quiet. Well, for a little while before we come to another highway. Okay, let's read the review. Eventually, we get closer to Ventosa. Watch out here. A sign for a hotel claims the Camino goes left, presumably to where the hotel is. Now, keep going straight, otherwise you'll add another kilometer or so to the day's walk. Besides, you'll miss a unique outdoor gallery of artwork spaced along the final kilometer or so into the town. But once there, look closely for the next twist in the Camino's route. And you know, it doesn't hurt to learn how to ask directions in some dorky version of Spanish.
Oh, ¿dónde el camino?
Yeah, just go back and turn left.
Ah. Oh, okay.
Even if the local resident speaks English. Because, assuming they do, I think is impolite. Next, more fields before starting up an eroded gully with a 13% grade. That ends at Alto San Antone, the highest hill in the area, and once a waypoint on this former Roman route through Rioja. The path descends a bit, passes several vineyards, and gently climbs to this picnic area. We're getting close to our destination of Nájera, but it's still about 90 minutes of walking away. Outside of town, we cross a highway and finally push through the town's more modern section before ending in the medieval center, where you'll find a fair selection of hotels and, of course, the ubiquitous albergues. So, let's get this out of the way early. On your journeys along the Camino, you're bound to run across people who declare that the only proper pilgrim is one who spends each night in an albergue. But if your idea of discomfort is sleeping in a room full of bunk beds with people who are sometimes noisy or snore, then you might consider a hotel. And if you want to go first class, you can also have your luggage transferred from town to town. The main point is, you do the Camino the way that you want to do it, and don't let the purists bully you into their idea of the way. And if you have any energy after the long day, I suggest taking a few minutes to explore the town. It's what some might call a quaint place. The main attraction, as with so many other towns along the Camino, is the local church. And here's where we get the rest of the story concerning the statue. It seems King Garcia III, that's this guy right up there, was out hunting partridge when his falcon decided to veer off into a cave where Garcia found a statue with fresh lilies and a lit oil lamp. He took this as divine backing of the Reconquista, or the campaign to rid Spain of the Moors, and he took some of the money that he got from plundering said Moors and built this church in the 11th century. It's called the Monasterio de Santa Maria la Real, and Garcia, along with other royalty, are buried here. Now, I suppose you could call this story part myth, part truth. After all, there is a statue. We just don't know how it really got here. But then, does it really matter?